All right, welcome to lesson 3 for chapter 5. We're going to talk about organism interactions here. Learning goal is that you will be able to describe the different interactions and symbiotic relationships that exist in ecosystems. So we're going to start off strong here with predation. Predation is a kind of interaction in which one animal kills and eats another. This guy killing and eating that guy. And predator benefits from food, getting a good meal, and the prey organism is harmed, usually killed. Here we have a chameleon eating an insect as well. Both predator and prey organisms show adaptations to their role. Usually the predator is going to be really fast, strong, able to take down its prey, and then prey animals tend to be fast as well, and they're usually kind of colored for their environment. So they're not going to be colored in any way that they're going to stand out, whereas a prey or a predator can be. They're not always, but they can be. All right, another interaction is competition. So competition is a kind of interaction in which two organisms strive to obtain the same limited resource. There are two types of competition, intraspecific and interspecific. So if we look at this picture here, these are all trees, and for the sake of this argument, we're going to say they are all the same type of tree. Trees need water and sunlight and nutrients to survive. All of these trees are competing for those resources. So even though they're the same species, they're still competing for the resources that are available to them. So we're going to compete for sunlight, we're going to compete for water, all of those things. So intraspecific competition is what that would be called, and that's competition between members of the same species. So you and I, same species, we could compete over food in a room, any sort of resource that we want, that we need. If the same species is competing for it, that is intraspecific. Now, interspecific competition is going to be between members of a different species. So we have a hyena versus the vultures going after this dead body. They are different species, so they're going to be competing, and it's interspecific. If we cut out this hyena, we're just looking at the vultures, then that would be intraspecific. All right, so with competition, we also have the competitive exclusion principles. And so this states that no two species can occupy the same ecological niche in the same place at the same time. And remember, niche is what they're doing, how they're impacting the environment. So that role of predator or prey, that is part of the niche. What it is eating, what it is consuming, what eats it, that is part of its niche. So less fit species must evolve into a slightly different niche, move to a different location, or go extinct. And that's where natural extinction comes into play, is they're just out-competed. They're no longer best fit for their environment, and if they can't change, they can't survive. So one example of this is these warblers. So each one of these birds, they look similar, but they're all different, are warblers. And they can all live in the same exact tree. Now, before their specialization, this is niche specialization, happened, maybe they were living in the entire tree. But competitive exclusion principle states that they can't all have the same exact niche, and so they have to specialize. They have to be more diverse. So we have the Cape May warbler. They just eat the new needles and buds at the top of the tree. We have a Blackburnian warbler, so they do that as well, but they can go all the way down here. So they're not over the same exact area. Black-throated green warbler, a little bit further down and then inside. Bay-breasted warbler, a little different. Yellow-rumped warbler, a little different. So it's competitive exclusion. Because of competition, each one of these birds has been excluded to its own section of the tree. All right, so our next type of relationships we're going to talk about are going to be symbiotic relationships. So symbiosis is a close, long-lasting physical relationship between two different species, and at least one species derives benefit from the interaction. So by physical relationship, it means they are physically close to each other. They are interacting pretty constantly. There are three categories of symbiotic relationships. There's parasitism, commensalism, and mutualism. So parasitism is a relationship in which one organism, the parasite, lives in or on another organism, the host, from which it derives nourishment. So that parasite is taking nutrients from its host. Now there's two types of parasites we're going to talk about. Ectoparasites live on the host surface. So like ticks, fleas, we can see them on the outside on the skin. Those would be ectoparasites. Like ectoskeleton is a skeleton on the outside. So fleas, lice, molds, mildews, you can see it from the outside. endoparasites. These are parasites that live inside the body. Endoskeleton, we have an endoskeleton. It's inside our body. So tapeworms, malaria parasites, bacteria, and fungi are all examples. So tapeworm, this is an endoparasite. This is a black-legged tick, ectoparasite. And then an Indian pipe plant. So any plant that is 100% just like white, it has no pigment, has no chlorophyll or anything to photosynthesize, is going to be a parasite. So the Indian pipe is a plant. That's a parasite. That would be an ectoparasite. We can see it. Okay, so the next symbiotic relationship we're going to talk about is commensalism. This is a relationship in which one organism benefits while the other is not affected. So remember, any symbiotic relationship, one of the species has to benefit. So for parasites, the parasite is benefiting. For commensalism, one's going to benefit and the other one doesn't care. It doesn't affect it at all. So one of the biggest examples is going to be remoras and sharks. Then we have mutualism. This is a relationship in which both species benefit. The relationship is obligatory in many cases, meaning it's necessary, it's needed for both species, as neither can exist without the other. So mycorrhiza are an example, as well as like flowers and pollinators. So these are the two that get confused the most often. But if we think about one species is benefited and one is not benefited, it does not care, it could not be, it's not affected at all. That's commensalism. If both species are like, yes, this is great, we're both benefiting from this, that is mutualism. It's a mutual relationship. So this is a bird's nest fern. It looks kind of like it's an ectoparasite, but it's not actually digging into that bark at all. It's just hanging out there. So this would be commensalism. The tree is not affected at all. It's not blocking any sites of photosynthesis because trees don't photosynthesize from their bark. So it's good. Remoras and sharks. So this is a shark right here. The little fishy right there is a remora. So shark, he does not care. Not affected at all by that fish hanging around him. But that fish gets protection. No one's going to come eat him when he's hanging out by a shark. And he gets to eat all the scraps that float by from the shark eating. And then this would be mutualism. So root nodules containing nitrogen-fixing bacteria. These little bubbles right here are filled with bacteria that fix nitrogen for the plant. Plant gets nitrogen, bacteria gets a place to live as well as some nutrients. And then oxpeckers are removing parasites. So these are oxpeckers. This is some sort of deer elk thing. But the birds get to eat the parasites and they now don't have parasites on them. So both of those species benefit. All right, that is the end of this lesson. Please let me know if you have any questions. And I will see you in the next one.